So following on from the video where I recreated the guitar tone from Conclusion of an Age, I figured I could just save the plugin settings, save the guitar bus settings, or the EQ that mimics that guitar tone, and I dug out the demo of Empyreal from 2009 on an old hard drive, and I just figured we'd see how it sounds with that Conclusion guitar tone. I personally don't like the tone on Edge of the Earth. Scott Adkins mixed it. He's like one of my favorite producers, mix engineers. He gets amazing guitar tones. But I insisted that we used a Marshall, and I insisted on using this cab that I had that was like a 1960 TV, tall vintage, with greenback speakers in it. And I kept that cab for quite some time. I had it in this studio, so I think I sold it maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and I could never get a useful tone out of it. Like ever since trying to, get into doing more production myself, and mainly I think it's just the speakers in that cab just kind of sucked. I was also trying to like steer Scott away from getting guitar tones that were more like he was, used to getting then, and I was kind of like referencing a lot more kind of, more kind of like raw production kind of stuff, and listening to loads of stuff like Mastodon and Skeleton Witch, and it had to be a Marshall tone and that kind of thing. So yeah, no slight on Scott, it's just I personally don't really like that tone, so I figured I'd dig out the demo. Still got the guitars that I recorded from the demo, which is the LTD MW600, but back when it had the EMGs in it. My playing isn't like as good as it could be, because essentially this was a demo, but I did quad track the guitars, which is cool. So yeah, figured I'd show you guys the original demo, some of the bells and whistles that you might not have really heard in the final mix, and just see how it sounds with a different guitar tone. A ton of these guitars are from PV Revolver, like the sweeps here. Yeah, we've got a bunch of the samples that were used in the final thing, so. And these are some synths that I programmed. I don't know how loud some of this sitar stuff is in the mix. Yeah, got some other sitar stuff here. Synth. Do you know what? This is like a really basic Cubase synth that I just use, like Hallian, that comes with Cubase for some of these sounds. And then I programmed in the sweeps as MIDI and use this. This kind of sounds a bit kind of dissonant. But again, I think that is particularly quiet in the mix. All these like explosion sounds you would have heard on Conclusion of an Age, and tons of records, reverse cymbals, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, here are the guitars. So yeah, if you've seen the video where I try and recreate the guitar tone from Conclusion of an Age, you'll have seen the amp settings that I used. Which are as follows. This is pretty kind of standard for my settings that I kind of go to, and same with Scott Adkins. Me and him both like to keep those mids low. And then it was the cabs in the plugin. 2 SM57s on 2 different speakers, blended. Oh yeah, important for the Conclusion tone, the tone on the Maxon is all the way off. Again, just to reiterate every time I talk about this isn't the same as rolling off your tone knob on a guitar. It doesn't necessarily work in the same way, so it's not like completely like rolled off in the high end. But it is getting rid of some of the harsh high end, so it does make for a fat guitar tone. So that's how it sounds. And then, yeah, there's a bunch of EQ on there. C4 compressing the lower mids, low end. And a bunch of notching out whistly frequencies. Yeah, this is pretty involved. Again, all this stuff you'll have seen, if you've seen that Conclusion of an Age tone rate creation video, all of this stuff is exactly the same. I haven't touched any of it. So, yeah, that's how it sounds. All of this drum MIDI is pretty close to what Rob played in the end. I think I used to be a lot worse than I am now for telling Rob in particular, obviously, who was in the band, like on those first 4 records, like, oh, it has to be this. I programmed this fill and it has to sync up with the guitars. And I'm a big fan of Death, particularly Gene Hoglan's drumming, so I always wanted like 2 ride cymbal kind of stuff. Actually, this instance, it's a hi-hat and a ride. Yeah, so guitar solo. I think this is a slightly different version here on the demo. To be honest, that sounds pretty similar. And then there was this riff that didn't make it to the album. I'll post that up on the Patreon for the Patreon exclusive. The riff that was thrown away. And then the song ends differently. And then we scrapped that and we said, let's go back to the sweep picking and morph it into the clean guitar sweeping. So yeah, the song itself, not too different. I thought it'd just be cool, like I said, just to check out the song with that Conclusion of an Age guitar tone that I'd already had saved in that other project. So yeah, I prefer it, obviously, as I said. Again, I was very hands-on in the mix of Edge of the Earth, pushing in a direction that I guess isn't necessarily like where Scott would have wanted to go with the guitars anyway. So I really pushed for something that, looking back, I wish I hadn't. But a lot of people say they like the guitar tone. I don't mean to, slate that tone too much when a lot of people like it. It's all personal preference, but I personally don't like it. Again, that's just me being adamant on using that cab in particular, and that cab just, as I said, I tried using it. I got rid of it a few years back, but I couldn't get anything remotely usable from that cab. So yeah, interesting to hear it with a tone that I prefer. As always, the stems and MIDI for this will be on the Patreon. Huge thank you to everyone on there for all their support. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so see you next time.